Good afternoon, ladies and Spencer. My Newberry author is on Sharon Creech. Sharon Creech was born in Used, Ohio on July 29, 1945. She grew up with her noisy and rowdy family. Her parents, Ann and Arvel, her sister Sandy, and her three brothers, Dennis, Doug, and Tom. Sharon Creech spent her childhood climbing trees and riding bikes with her siblings. She wanted to be many things when she grew up: a painter, an ice skater, a singer, and a reporter. She realized that she didn't suit any of those careers. She loved English and did very well in it. A lot of her teachers encouraged her to write, and because of it, later made her think it was possible to become a writer. It wasn't until she took literature and writing courses in college that she felt intrigued by storytelling. After graduating, Sharon, a single mom, was working in Washington, D.C. at the Congressional Quarterly, raising her two children by herself. A friend wrote to her from the TASIS England American School in London, urging her to apply for a position teaching English at the school. Creech did, growing increasingly interested in determining to become a teacher in English. When her interview went badly, she wrote the headmaster an impassioned letter asserting that she could indeed meet the demands of teaching at the school, despite the fact that she was a single mother. Convinced of her determination, the headmaster hired her. At the school, Creech met her future husband, Lyle Rigg, who she married 3 years later. While teaching great literature, she learned so much about writing, about what makes a story interesting, and about techniques of plot and characterization and point of view. This is when Sharon Creech decided to become an author. The people and events in Sharon Creech's life inspired many of her books. She has a unique way of integrating past events into her work. In many of her books, such as her Newbery Award-winning novel, Walk 2 Moons, she mentions the fictional town of Bybanks, Kentucky. The town was always described as a farm city filled with hills, trees, swimming holes, barns, and haylofts. Bybanks was based on the real city of Quincy, Kentucky, a place she and her family would take countless trips to visit cousins. She loved playing outside, running on the hills all day long, and gathering on the porch at night, taking turns saying stories. Her first published book in the United States is Walk 2 Moons, which won the 1995 Newbery Medal Award. In Walk 2 Moons, the trip that the main character, Salamanca, takes with her grandparents follows the same route that she took with her family when she was Sal's age. In her Newbery Medal acceptance speech, she vividly recalls the car trip from Ohio to Lewiston, Idaho, that she and her family took shortly after her 12th birthday, a trip which became the basis of Sal's long journey across the country. The character Sal is taking a trip with her grandparents in search of her missing mother. During her trip, Sal decides to tell her grandparents a story about her friend Phoebe, whose story isn't far from Sal's. The process of describing Phoebe's story and the reasons that her mother left helps Sal better understand her own mother's journey. Sharon Creech weaves together two tales, one funny, one bittersweet, to create a heartwarming and compelling story of love and loss. Walk 2 Moons is really 3 stories in one, all of them interconnected in a narrative that is structured brilliantly. Not only did Walk 2 Moons win the Newbery Award, but it won the annual Children's Book Award for long novels, voted by children, and the Reading Association Award in the UK. The title of Walk 2 Moons had come up when Sharon discovered a fortune cookie message in the bottom of her purse, and the message was, "Don't judge a man until you've walked 2 moons in his moccasins." She realized that everything that she was trying to convey in the book had to do with that message, that you need to get to know someone well before you form an opinion about them, and in a way, that's what writers are doing every day with characters. In Absolutely Normal Chaos, Sharon's first children's novel, Mary Lou's family is very much like Sharon Creech's family. Like Mary Lou, she also has a sister and 3 brothers in which she uses the same names for her characters' fictional brothers. Mary Lou's life is much like Sharon's, filled with the never-ending noise at the dinner table and the price of living with 3 rowdy brothers and 1 boy-crazy older sister. This book is a coming-to-age story that was inspired by the times where she had been missing her family back in the United States while she was living in England and Switzerland for 10 years. She would write memories of what it was like growing up in normal family chaos, while also adding her own storyline twists. This book is great for literature circles. The book I used came with literature circle questions and activities on the back of the book so the teachers can use with their students. Sharon Creech also received a Newbery honor for the book The Wanderer, which was inspired by a road trip her daughter took sailing across the Atlantic after she graduated. Along the way, she ran into a storm and was lucky to make it to Ireland alive. The book is about a 13-year-old girl named Sophie. When she hears the sea calling, she sets sail for England with her 3 uncles and 2 cousins, promising adventure and a chance for discovery. Through Sophie and her cousin Cody's travelogues, we hear stories of the past and the daily challenges of surviving at sea as the wanderer sails towards its destination. Other books that Sharon Creech has written are Bloomability, which won the IRA CBC Children's Choice Award in 1999, Chasing Redburn, and Ruby Holler. She also writes in verse. For example, the book Love That Dog is a touching story of a young boy named Jack. The story develops as Jack responds to his teacher, Miss Stretchberry, over the course of the school year. She tries to get him to start writing, but Jack keeps saying, "I can't," or "I won't." But as the teacher begins to feed him inspiration, Jack finds that he has a lot to say and many ways to say it. All year long, Jack tries to talk about his teacher, his beloved dog Sky, and his life in more in-depth ways. One day, Sky dies because he is hit by a truck. Jack uses poetry and his new long joy in writing to cope with his loss, which is quite huge, considering that Jack is only in 3rd grade. Sharon Creech has not made any sequels to any of her books, but each book makes references to characters in other books. Most of the books are already related to each other. For example, the main character in Absolutely Normal Chaos, Mary Lou, her family, and her cousin Ben are mentioned briefly in the book Walk 2 Moons. Sharon Creech's books consist of adventure stories. She views writing itself as a kind of journey, filled with unexpected challenges and discoveries. She is able to describe her characters so well. In an interview, Sharon shares, "I can picture them like they're right there. I try to be in that character's head so that I'm seeing what they're seeing and feeling what they're feeling. I think if I can do that, then you can portray a character with whom other people will identify." I enjoyed reading most of her books. She has an intelligent way of writing the book with ease, and I was able to put words to images almost instantly. I would have to say Walk 2 Moons is my favorite book from her because I was able to connect with Sal the most and her coping with the loss of her mother. Creech is still an author and plans on writing more stories. As long as the ideas and memories keep coming, I will keep writing. She stands by her natural tendency for writing books with hope and humor. She argues that she is simply suited for telling stories. She loves the stories she creates and the time she spends in the beautiful places with kind and interesting people. Her books offer her and her readers the chance to live in the world of hope and beauty. Sharon Creech now lives in the United States with her husband Lyle. She has 2 grown children, her son Rob and her daughter Karen. She says that her family is very supportive of her writing. They want to read what she writes as soon as she lets them. They carry the books around with them and tell other people about them and get very excited. Being with my family is what I enjoy most. The next best thing is writing stories.